What's going on, everybody? My name's Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. Welcome back to an all-new episode of the K-Drama Club. And if you're new here, you know, we're friends.
Okay.
We like K-pop.
I agree.
We like K-dramas.
I agree as well.
And sometimes we make YouTube videos talking about those things.
Every day.
Every single day. So if you are into all that fun stuff, subscribe to this channel and you'll get daily videos, K-pop reactions, and this, our K-Drama Club, where we watch a K-drama on Netflix and you can watch along with us. And today is very bittersweet.
Very bittersweet.
Because we just finished watching Crash Landing on You. So today we're going to talk about the last 4 episodes, but also the show as a whole.
Yeah, just the entirety of it.
And what we thought of it and how it impacted us. So if you would like to go back and watch our previous episodes, please go ahead and do that. We'll put them up at the top and in the description. And before we get too deep into Crash Landing on You, it's time to start a new K-drama club with a new K-drama.
Yes, it is.
So we've decided
that we're going to go with My Mister next.
My Mister.
Yeah, we've been kind of dying to watch a show with IU in it.
Right. Big IU fans.
Yeah, big IU fans. So it was obviously between My Mister and Hotel de Luna, or Hotel de Luna, or whatever it's called.
We had a lot of requests for My Mister.
Yeah, so we've had requests for My Mister in the past. There's a lot of K-dramas that were really popular that we're going to get to.
Yeah.
But we're just going to do one at a time.
Yep.
Go with My Mister next.
So next Monday, look forward to a new K-drama club featuring our reaction to the first 4 episodes of My Mister.
Sounds good.
I got a burp.
Okay.
Thought there was something else I had to say about that, but I guess not. Oh, and now that we're going to be getting into talking about Crash Landing on You and what we thought, please don't forget to leave your comments down below, what you think of the show, things that we missed, etc., all things like that. But here we are. It's a sad day.
It's over.
I'm sad that it's over, but also at the same time, it's maybe the best show I've ever watched.
Yeah, it's watching it again too. It's crazy that like you can watch it for a second time or a third time and still like
have
feel
a reaction,
all those like emotions that come along with the show, to the point where you're like there are literal times watching the show where like I can feel like I'm like about to cry.
Right.
Like
I had the most emotional reaction at the end of the second to last episode and at the beginning of the last episode.
Yeah.
And that was just like, can't hold it back. It's just too much. And shows don't normally do that to me.
Yeah,
These K-dramas pull at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
And the other time I got most emotionally invested was during Startup with the scene with the grandmother.
yeah.
And but this was on a whole nother level.
Totally.
I thought that was like pulling at the heartstrings and, you know, an emotional thing, but no, this is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, it's like a totally different level.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last few episodes of the show are such a roller coaster.
It's
of
unbelievable.
emotion.
I would say the whole show as a trajectory, like, it just is like a steady incline of emotion and tension, and it builds up your relationships with all these characters you would have thought you didn't care about, characters you thought you would be not on their side.
Yeah.
And by the end, you're on their side and you're like emotional about what's happening to them.
Exactly. And I think that this show did it so like amazingly, where they set up all these characters and they got you invested in all these different characters. Like I feel like other dramas you watch, there's like a couple characters, like the 2 main characters, and then maybe like a couple, and it kind of just like push the story forward that way.
Yeah.
But this show, it's like it has like a bunch of things going on. You learn about all these different people's like stories, and it's like everything's like perfect. Like, like there's all these storylines, and I'm not sick of any of them.
And it's not cliche is the thing,
exactly.
and it's not super predictable because, you know, it's a love story because you kind of figure, okay, the couple's going to be together in the end. But I had serious doubt about what was even going to happen to either character and how they would continue to like have a relationship, if at all. I was unsure, like just knowing it's a finite series too, unsure like what characters will survive and what characters will not survive.
Yeah.
And like that predictability is refreshing.
Yeah.
Because usually you could just guess what's going to happen.
And I think with this show, like, there's no real tension with the love story because the love story is consistent, and it's like, it's more the tension of how is this going to work?
How are they going to make it work?
Is it going to...
We're not worried about are they in or out of love.
Yeah.
We're worried about like, okay, how could this possibly logistically work?
And I think the craziest thing about it is like up until the end of this show, you're not convinced. Like I'm like, you're like, they could just separate and then never see each other again. And then live their lives that way.
Yeah.
And like that might be the way the show ends.
Yeah, and
but
it does this back and forth thing. I mean, it really is, like you said, a roller coaster at the end, especially when he gets captured by the South Korean police.
Yeah.
And he kind of is taking the route of just saying, like, yeah, he's a North Korean spy, and like, blah, blah, blah.
Because he's trying to like divert blame from everyone else, like
Right.
onto himself. So he's like pretending that he never had feelings or anything like that.
And that was some of the most heartbreaking part. And I was also like, well, it could literally end like that. It could end where he just goes back to North Korea. And, But it didn't.
It didn't.
And we're happy that it didn't.
Thankfully.
And it's just like people keep getting shot and ending up in the hospital and being almost dead. And it's crazy. And it's funny how there's some characters that you think are going to be enemies. There's only like 3 clear enemies, right? It's like the siblings, Sari's siblings, and then the very bad military guy.
From North Korea.
Yeah, like those are the complete irredeemable enemies.
Yeah.
But towards the end, we had this ramp up of this storyline of Captain Ri's fiance, Dan, and
The con man.
the con man.
Seung-jun.
And that, like, I was just rooting for him so much at the end because their love story, like, it's great for her to get some kind of redemption because she was stuck in a bad situation with this arranged marriage. And they found each other and they found love. And you find out, like, his actions, were kind of bad for what he was doing, but they weren't so bad. And he really redeemed himself in big ways, helping Sari, helping the captain.
Yeah.
And then they fell in love.
Yeah. And I think like his story, the con man guy, his story is like the craziest one in the whole show. I think like the trajectory of like his, like everything that happens to him. And then like you learn about his backstory and like his relationship with Don could literally be its own show. And it would be like just as interesting and just as fun and just as entertaining.
And I was hoping for that until he goes out with a bang.
He goes out with a bang.
I think that was so crazy and unexpected when that scene happened. Like, and it happens out of nowhere too. Like, that she gets captured and he leaves the airport, but you don't know what's going to happen. And the fact that he just shows up and they had already planted that seed about the clay shooting in his target practice.
Like he's already good. He's good.
And he just mows them all down, but then unfortunately is killed in the process.
Yeah, he does.
It's insane.
It's so much. And then it really all comes full circle after that because then like Don wants to get revenge.
Yeah.
So she ends up being the one that like brings Sari's brother and his wife kind of like to justice by like digging out this information about like who was funneling money to North Korea and everything like that.
And there's no question marks with her story because it's not like, oh, is she still in love with this guy she was supposed to marry? No, she was in love with this one dude and now he's dead. And now she's like very focused on her music.
Yeah, and like living an independent life and like not focusing so much on like being dependent on other people.
And that was great closure for her, for that character.
And I think it's great because like, I think he was kind of like this like flashy, like the con man, like he's like flashy, like he's always conning people, and she was kind of like focused on this life that she wanted, but I don't think she really understood like why or like what the reasoning behind it was. And I think that they kind of like met and like learned through each other. Like he learned how to be genuine, and then she learned like how to be independent or like love somebody else besides the captain, who she kind of like blindly loved for no real reason. And then so obviously he ends up dying, but she ends up with like this different sense of independence and like living life her own way.
She go to play her cello in Russia.
Exactly.
It's so funny.
And then even with the like the North Korean soldiers, there were like big question marks when like they got offered to like let them stay in South Korea when they were captured by kind of like it's like South Korea's version of the FBI kind of. It's like like the CIA, like an intelligence thing. And they got captured and they kind of offered to allow them to stay in South Korea. And I was wondering like, is any of these guys actually gonna stay or are they all gonna go back?
They did a good job of like firmly cementing that these guys, for the most part, have families that that either the family depends on them or that they have a strong connection to, and that they need to go back for their families, despite all the luxuries of like the more Western, South Korean culture.
Yeah, and I think surprisingly, in the end, the one person you feel like might want to stay is the one who like kind of talks. Like he hates capitalism and he hates Sari and like, but he's the one who seemed to like enjoy himself the most.
Exactly.
While he was actually
that character is great. All those guys are great. And it's so smart the way they did this show.
Yeah.
They make all these characters that you just care about.
Yeah.
And I would say the most emotional reaction I had was at the beginning of the final episode when they finally go do the prisoner exchange at the border and Sari shows up. and the boys are all like getting handcuffed.
Yeah.
And the young one just puts up the hearts.
Yeah, the finger hearts. Yeah.
That broke me immediately.
Yeah. And then he just like gets started getting pulled away by the guards, and he's just like holding up the finger hearts.
And they all like say something to her. Like, that's just amazing.
Yeah. It's just crazy how like the story progressed, because in the beginning it was kind of just like this lighthearted, like funny back and forth kind of thing, but then like as the show goes on, everything just got so much deeper, like all the relationships. And I think like the show worked in the same exact way that like your feelings work for the characters in the show, where in the beginning it's all very like lighthearted and kind of like whatever, like their relationship isn't that much, but as the show goes on, like as their relationships grow, it's like your relationship with them grows. Like in the exact same way, to the point where all these scenes are like super emotional.
And then even the women of the North Korean village, who are really made out to be enemies at the beginning, because they're going to uncover like, oh, what's going on with Seri. But that very sweet moment of Seri's choice, having these products where she made them all the portraits of those women, and they are able to find them because Don's mom brings them. Yeah. And that was such a sweet moment. Like these people that like cared so much, and then they fight for their village, and they're just really good people.
Yeah, exactly. It was a very few people who like treated Seri like she was one of them while she was in North Korea. It was just like, and that's like the same relationship with the soldiers, the captain, Captain Ri, and then those women were like she's like, these are the people who like helped me. And like the women didn't know the full story until after the fact, but they were very compassionate with her and like showed her respect and like spent time with her and stuff.
Yes.
And I think she appreciated that, because it was obviously a stressful and scary situation for her. So to have friends.
The other thing that broke me too was when the women were like, do you think she knows that we have seen these? Yeah. And like they can never know. Yeah, like
exactly. That's just like she'll never know that
it made their way back to them. Well, I guess we can talk about the main couple.
The main couple.
Seri and Captain Ri.
Yeah.
What a roller coaster they went on.
I don't know, the last few episodes.
The way it accelerated, it's like he's like this dude that's like the bodyguard, but the family is skeptical.
Yeah.
And the way it played out was just kind of weird, but I didn't really have a point. I don't know what I was talking about.
Yeah, I think like we said before, like the best part of this show is that the relationship's never in doubt. Right. So there's not like that like weird like, oh my God, what's gonna happen, like tension. It's how are they going to continue to make this work? Like first she's in North Korea, and then she goes back to South Korea, and then he goes to South Korea, and it's like they're always kind of hiding. Yeah. And they're never able to just
always
like
a little bit unstable.
Exactly, because like it could end at any moment. And that's like the stress of the relationship. The stress isn't like, oh, are they in love?
Does he love me?
Yeah,
Does he love me?
exactly.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is what tends to happen a lot of the time in shows.
Yeah.
And I just like that, because they're very like affirming to each other, and it makes you feel like good about their relationship.
Yes.
That they're very like
they understand that they are each other's soulmates.
Exactly. Like they know, and there's no doubt. Question there.
Well, and considering the turn of events that they've been through and the connections that they had even before they knew each other, it is no argument against the fact that they are indeed soulmates. Yeah.
And like the one part of the show that was the only like tense part of the relationship was when she went to see him when he was captured, and he like pretends that like he was just trying to get her for her money for North Korea.
That was so sad.
But even she knew that was fake. Yeah. She knew exactly what was going on, and that's why she was trying to convince him to kind of come clean to the officers.
But don't you think there would be some doubt in a real person's mind?
I don't think so. For her in the show, I don't think there was really any doubt, just based on everything they'd been through. Like, he came back to North Korea.
He could be a very highly trained intelligence officer.
He came back to South Korea. Literally, like, he took a bullet for her in North Korea. Like,
when you add up all the events, it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, like, and then after, like, she met his parents and, like, they said all this stuff, too. Like, there's, like, a whole situation there that I think she knew exactly what he was trying to do. Yeah. Just knowing who he is. Like, that's the reaction that she would have expected from him. And she was trying to convince him, like, hey, like, this isn't what we need from you. Like, this is not what you have to do. But he obviously is set in his ways in a certain way. So he wasn't ready to kind of, like, he thought what he was doing was the best for everybody. But then So then the worst part is that he acted like that to her, and then she instantly like got sick
Collapsed.
again and collapsed.
And my prediction was that was going to be all a ruse to get him to show his cards and be like, oh no, sorry.
Yeah.
But it was real.
Yeah,
So
real.
it became scary.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think for the saddest part was like him thinking that like that was the last interaction they were ever going to have. And so that's, he ended up going to the hospital and waiting for her to wake up and all that. And even still, when she did wake up, he tried to kind of hide because he didn't want her to get too excited or anything.
But he got to see that she woke up and she'd be all right.
Exactly.
And then the messages. The programmed messages, because at that point, I guess you're still thinking, it does a good job of like, it makes you believe like, okay, this is life now. Like he's back in the north, she's back in the south, and then he programmed these messages and they're going to be done one day. But then eventually we get to the flowers and he goes, meet me where these flowers grow or whatever.
Which is crazy because he could have just said, hey, meet me in Switzerland.
At this exact place, please.
I'm going to try to go from... But he didn't know all this at the time because he got discharged from the army.
Yes.
And then
his family pulled some strings, I'm sure.
So he could be a pianist again.
Yes.
And do all that. And I think that they both knew what their best chance to meet again was.
Yeah.
So she did the thing with the charity foundation, set it up for Switzerland. And he started playing piano again, and that was kind of their plan.
And now they have this life together.
They have the life together.
It's not like the perfect like living in a house all year round together, but
2 weeks a year.
It's the best they can do.
Best they can do.
And they own that house for sure because there's like pictures in it.
Yeah,
I was thinking this is not like a place that they're renting because there's pictures of them.
Well, she's super rich.
Yeah,
so
obviously. That makes things much easier for sure.
She was driving like the nice like a sports car.
Yeah. And you know who came through in a big way? The rat.
The rat.
Upil's father. I don't know why I remember the kid's name and not the father's name.
Easy to remember Upil.
Yeah. He bugs the hospital room. And we get a lot out of that little tape recorder. We get basically the siblings confessing to their crimes.
Yep.
And then we also get the moms talking to Sari while she's down and kind of like explaining her emotions about the whole mother-daughter relationship and how broken it is. So that helps heal their relationship, and that's great because then she gets to be a connection, the mom gets to be a connection to Captain Ree. And she's the one that ultimately brings Sari, understands that Sari is really in love with this man and ultimately brings her to the border and says, no, like you really want to go see him before he goes, like you have to. And then of course it starts the spiral of like, now we know these guys hired a hitman to kill their sister and like we're doing like really shady stuff to try to take over the company. And then they get disowned by the father.
Yeah. So on the mother-daughter relationship, I think the redeeming thing about the message that she had on the voice recorder was the mother said, which I didn't notice this first time I watched it. She said, like, I was in a very bad place. Like, I went there to end my life. And I think that resonated with Sari in a way because she did the same thing going to Switzerland.
Right.
So when the mother said, like, at night when they went to the beach, like, she left and she was going to kill herself. And Sari was like she knowing exactly how that feels.
Right.
So I think that allowed her to kind of forgive a little bit because she was in a similar place at a similar time in her life.
Yeah.
So I think that
also the mom, she said all those things not knowing that she's being recorded, not knowing that anybody could even hear her too. So I think that's pretty powerful.
It makes it more genuine when people say things like that, kind of like to themselves.
For sure.
It makes you like know that they're being honest when they say it and they have no intention of you ever hearing it.
Exactly. And that was great. Like, to go back even further with the listening device. First of all, the setup for the listening device is funny because you know that this guy's like this spy that like that did that back in North Korea, but you see him like in the hospital team and the crew, the cleanup crew, like bugging the thing. But then like that being how they found out that she woke up, like he's like listening the whole time, and they're like waiting outside the hospital.
All those scenes where they're like listening are so funny.
Yes,
like, and they're like acting them out like it's like a drama, and they're like eating food, watching, and then they're in the subway like screaming, like cheering. It's so funny.
That was so great. So many good things. I would say these last 4 episodes are the strongest episodes for sure.
Yeah. It's just, there's so much like emotion, but it's also still has that sort of kind of like lightheartedness that you get more in the beginning of the show. There's still the like aspects of that.
And I'd say looking back at the beginning of the show, like I don't think I was so sure how much I was going to like this show even after the first 4 episodes. But like it just built up over time. It got just so much stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and because in the first 4 episodes, you're not exactly sure how it's going to go, It's just kind of like setting everything up. And then the next 4 episodes, you get kind of like, it's like all that emotional stuff and then added on like some action scenes.
Yeah.
And then as the show goes on, like you get those periodic like action scenes.
Yeah.
And I think those are like really, really good too. And it like helps make the show a lot more interesting than some other dramas.
Yeah, those like big blowouts. Which, speaking of big blowouts, similar to the con man scene where he goes through and like just like takes everybody down with that shotgun. The part where they enter back into North Korea and the corrupt military guy like is taking them all and he's like, okay, now we're just gonna execute you.
Yeah.
And like that was another moment where I was like, I do not know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, how are they gonna overcome this? But the dad showing up and just like having his troops shoot, and then not only that, just gunning that dude
Straight up
down.
killing him,
Like to have the dad do that, like because the dad is a very sits back with his tea. He's very quiet, very passive, but you can tell he's very. He's high up there in his rank, but he's also seen some things and probably done some things in his life, and only plays those cards when he absolutely needs to.
Exactly.
And in that moment, he just boom took them out.
Yeah.
That was so great.
Last thing I want to talk about is you brought up the rat guy, and his character is another character that in the first half of the show is almost like just barely there.
Right.
And then the second half, they build his character up so much to the point where like he also has like one of the most heartbreaking backstories.
True.
And you learn so much about this character that I think in most situations would just be like a kind of secondary character that just kind of like pops up and like helps in a way. But you learn so much about his story. Like you understand why he's doing what he's doing. When he like finally makes a decision to go against that evil general and like help the right people, even risking his own life and his family.
Yeah.
Like you see everything that builds up to that point and like his justification and why he would do all that.
Yeah.
And I just think that this show's really good at that. Like
That
you're
arc.
understanding every aspect of the decisions that people are making just by their backstory. And there's not really much that's just like, I wonder why this person did that, or there's not much up to the imagination. It's very like, I don't know how to say it.
You can see it all.
Yeah,
you can see it all unfold, and it's very natural, and you don't have to guess, and it doesn't just feel like, oh, because this is a TV show, this person's making this. You're like, oh no, because he knew the brother, and because he like literally heard the guy die on the radio, and the brother had given him money, and like, and then Captain Ree like saves him from that gang, or gets his wallet back from that gang. Like all these moments that just lead up to this great like. And even when he's like using the corrupt general is using his family against him, saying we're going to take out your family, like he still had to put like blind faith in that things would turn out okay, and that he would still help Captain Ree. You know, the soundtrack of this show, at first I was not too fond of it. I was of course fond of the IU song just because it's IU, but this soundtrack is a bit slower and a lot more ballads. But obviously at the end of the show, it makes so much sense, and now I cannot not emotionally react to these songs. So it's becoming like one of my favorite soundtracks for that reason.
Yeah, the soundtrack is really good. And I think in the beginning of the show, like there's only like really a couple songs that they play, and then as towards the later episodes, they start to work in more songs. Yeah. But the ones that they play all the time in the beginning, it's like when you hear them, it's just instant reaction. Yeah. Like it like brings you back to watching the show. And
for sure.
I really like the soundtrack of this show.
It would be great to get a sequel.
I know.
Season.
Just to see what happens. But I think the thing is, if there was another season, then there would have to be more drama that happens.
There would have to be a new conflict.
And I like to think that it's
just all happy the rest of the time.
It's happy. They got their happily ever after. And, you know, I think that just like thinking like, okay, they live their lives, they're happy, and then 2 weeks out of the year they go to Switzerland and they do their thing. She runs her company. He's a pianist again. And you know, they have each other, and I kind of like the way it ended.
Do you think they only see each other 2 weeks out of the year?
Yeah, she says it's her favorite 2 weeks of the year.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, I just figure if he's touring throughout Europe, she could probably visit him another.
Yeah, they probably see each other more than just those 2 weeks. If he's out of North Korea.
I don't know. Second season could be what happens if they have a baby, or what happens if
it turns into a sitcom.
Yeah, exactly. It just switches genres. Yeah, but no, I feel that you just have like this understanding of what the situation is.
Yeah.
Great show.
It was amazing.
Possibly one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, I think once we've watched like 5, we should have like a big like a whiteboard where we have like each of our top 5 K dramas, and we like list them, and then we can just change it. We can like fill in the slots.
One thing I have noticed, so I've seen 3 K dramas now: HA1 Class, Startup, and Crash Landing on You.
Yeah.
First of all, this one is definitely my favorite out of those three, and I did not expect it to overtake Itaewon Class, but it did. All three have a sibling rivalry at the center.
Yeah, I mean, there is this very sort of
Shakespearean almost?
I think there's this very sort of family-based thing in Korean culture. But I don't know, and I think the thing with these rivalries and these K-dramas is that a lot of it has to do with money and influence and like rich families versus
firstborn versus,
exactly.
you know.
So I think like there's this kind of like money aspect to it as well as kind of like family aspect to it that seems very common in the in their like culture.
Interesting. I'm curious to see how more of that plays out.
Exactly. We'll see what happens.
Well, let us know what you think of Crash Landing on You and all the things that we didn't talk about. There's so much to talk about that we'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the aspects of the show that you think are important that maybe we might have skipped over during this episode. It's a great show. But we're starting a new K-drama starting on Monday. So you can watch our channel, and every single Monday we will post a new K-drama club, and we're starting with My Mister on the next Monday after this is posted. We're going to watch episodes 1 through 4. So if you'd like to watch along with us, or if you've already watched the show, stay tuned and we'll have more episodes of that. We've also got K-pop reactions, and we upload daily on this channel. So make sure you subscribe if you're into the K-drama club or if you're into K-pop and K-pop reactions. For now, my name is Nick.
And I'm Joe.
And we're Nick and Joe. Joyo.